Welcome, welcome, welcome everyone to Live from NCCE here on this beautiful May 14th. We're happy to have you from across the country and around the world with the amazing Leanne Lindsay, who, and I'm going to get it wrong. He put it on the screen because he loves me. It's the Arizona Institute for Education and Economy through Northern Arizona University. But what's super cool is Leanne has been working on an AI framework for K-12 in Arizona. And I have so many questions, but Leanne, we're so excited to have you here. Welcome to the show, and talk to us about I know there was something you wanted to tell us first. So why don't you share that first?
Yeah, what's really interesting is that, well, first of all, thank you for having me. This is such a pleasure. I speak a lot about our statewide AI guidance for K-12 education. I speak a lot about it in Arizona. So this is really a treat for me to be able to speak outside of Arizona. What's very unique about our guidance is that I represent, it's called the Arizona Institute for Education and the Economy. And our institute is powered out of Northern Arizona University. And out of all the states who have AI guidance for K-12, we are one of two that don't come from the SEA, from the Department of Ed in that state. And so with that, I would love to just take a few minutes to talk about the Institute and what we do and why we actually care about AI guidance, because that will, I think, frame a little bit of the conversation and a little bit of the perspective that we come from when we write it. And it's a little bit unique. So I am going to hopefully hit the right button. Oh, no, I'm already sharing my screen.
Cool. And here it is.
Okay. So again, so I'll just introduce myself real quick. So my formal title is I'm the Director of EdTech and Innovation for the Institute. And that put me in the position to be the lead author of our Arizona AI guidance. But I was not alone. I had 5 other authors that wrote alongside of me. And I will also talk a little bit about the AZAI Alliance that blossomed out of writing the guidance. And I'll talk about that in a few minutes. So about the Institute, we are a statewide nonpartisan solutions institute, and that sounds very buzzwordy. So here are the 3 things I want you to know. We actually sit at the intersection of pre-K-12, higher education, and business industry / workforce. We are absolutely intentionally and relentlessly nonpartisan. And the third bullet is really where the magic happens. We are preparing Arizona education for the future, which includes the AI revolution. And so this is a slide that we show often just to very quickly illustrate the problem that we're trying to solve at the Institute. And that is the world is changing at breakneck speed, and school isn't. And in fact, in Arizona, we have 1.5 million children that we say we send to school every day. And because the system has effectively stayed in place, too many of those 1.5 million children, we send them into this box that we call school, that most of us know hasn't changed a whole lot in about 106 years since the Carnegie unit. But then our world around us continues to evolve. So this is another image that we show, and we say, when this system in 1906, this system of school was born, it really did match what was going on in the world outside of school. And it was built for a very specific purpose. And it served that purpose at the time. But today, our classrooms, they might not have sewing machines, but there's a lot of similarities that haven't really shifted. Meanwhile, our world has shifted. We also talk a lot about, the world and the workforce changing and how it is positioned to change over the next 5 years, especially. Beyond that, we know it'll continue to change, but we don't know all the ways in which it will change, but we know it's changing, as well as our information and decision-making landscape. And of course, this gap is amplified. This gap, or what we call the incongruence between school and the world and the workforce, is amplified by artificial intelligence. And so we use this frame and we talk about the very traditional model of school. We refer to that as School 1.0. And School 1.0 is really defined by time, right? We have 45-minute period of English and a 45-minute period of math, siloed subjects and content areas. It's often described as the factory model. And most of us know that what is prioritized in School 1.0 or Classroom 1.0 is sort of facts and knowledge, and it usually doesn't prioritize critical thinking. And it's really driven by these legacy structures, colleges of education, funding, governance, and calendars. Now, before I go on, I'll just say that we know that teachers and administrators across Arizona and the nation are not satisfied with School 1.0. They didn't create it, they inherited it. And most schools are trying everything they can to move away from School 1.0. They're bolstering CTE programs and they're trying new, like, we know all of that is true. So when I talk about School 1.0, it really is about the system of school that we all have inherited. So we are now, as an institute, trying to move over to School 2.0, which is, the type of school that we're all working towards: more interdisciplinary, more project-based, more real-world experiences. And many of our schools and our leaders are kind of driving towards that in the ways that they can. So we're trying to help more schools get over there. And then the School 3.0 really represents like the school of the future. And what does that really need to look at? And it's kind of more of a hypothetical than it is a defined, this is what it is. It's more going, yeah, School 2.0 is great. We all are trying to get there. And what comes next as the world continues to evolve? This is just more of the same. And so here's where we really ask these questions. If the world, the workforce, and the information and decision-making landscape are evolving, how must our education system evolve to ensure that our students are prepared to access the opportunities of tomorrow? And therefore, what role does AI play? Oops. And that's what brings us to why we, not being the Department of Education, but why we have a very vested interest in putting out guidance for K-12 schools around the use and the implementation of generative AI, and beyond just the document of the guidance, why we helped launch and lead the AZ AI Alliance. So that's kind of my little setup. I just like to talk about that because we really do approach AI guidance from the lens of School 2.0 and sort of moving away from the legacy system of school. And we constantly ask ourselves, what role does AI play in driving help supporting schools to move towards School 2.0? And with that, I'm going to stop sharing, I think. No, I'm not going to stop sharing. The screen is going to rearrange, I think.
Okay. There you go. You figured it out. Yay. So fascinating. I love the idea of industry having some input on how to shape the structure of educating our kids with AI. But it strikes me, being a former teacher, actually still being a teacher, it strikes me that one of the groups of people that we have to get on board are the teachers, right? We have a lot of fear with teachers about uses of AI. So how do you see AI reshaping the role of teachers, and how can teachers use those tools without losing that human connection that is so vital to a good education?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that we talk relentlessly about in the guidance is that when AI is used effectively, it actually creates more space for human connection. And when we talk about using it appropriately and effectively, that's almost synonymous with human connection and human skills. So, how are the teachers then really exercising their expertise as teachers, right? And so,
Mm.
I always like one thing that I've thought about for a very long time. We've all heard folks compare like teachers as sage on the stage to teachers as guide on the side, right? That's a pretty common
Yes.
thing that most of us talk about. And I've often thought about that as when teachers can become learning scientists.
Mm.
And teachers, more than anybody, we understand how learning happens.
Mhm.
We understand that it's a social process. We understand learning science. Now with the push, with science of reading, we're understanding that even more. What is the brain science behind how learning happens? And so I think of it as almost a step up or another layer to the guide on the side, that we're not just guiding, but we're actually directing how learning happens. And I think we can only do that when we have tools. Teachers have too much to do. We can't do it all. And so we can only become learning scientists, and we can only focus on exercising that level of expertise if we have all the tools available to help us do that. We need something to be over here so that we can sit in that expert space.
I like that. So you're looking at, yes, that sage on the sage, guide on the side. That's been around a long time, but it sounds like you're advocating more for the use of AI for supporting teachers with those tasks that take up so much of our time, so we have more time to craft experiences for students, or do some one-on-ones, or maybe some project-based learning. Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, yeah, yes, and um, I've been engaged because we're rewriting the guidance. So the current version, we originally published it in 2024. Actually, today is the anniversary. Two
Ah,
years ago, exactly today, we released the guidance. We updated it in 2025, and now we're doing a full rewrite for 2026. And so I've been engaged in this conversation a lot about cognitive offloading, right? And my team has been talking about um, there are some very positive benefits to cognitive offloading. In this year's guidance, you'll see a reference to like Steve Jobs and his very iconic black mock turtleneck and his jeans. And famously, I don't know if it's true, but famously, it was said that this outfit regularity was to minimize decision fatigue. He didn't have to think about what he wore, so that he could focus his attention on more important things that he wanted to think about. And another analogy is exercise equipment. If you're a gym rat, you know that when you use a certain piece of equipment, it is designed specifically to target a muscle while other muscles rest,
that's true.
right? It isolates that one muscle and all the other muscles rest. And in a way, that's how we think about cognitive offloading, that it can be good. Of course, no teacher wants to limit learning. And so what we have to do as learning scientists, as experts about learning, is we have to think about, where do we want to focus the learning? Where is that point where our students really need some friction, and they need some productive struggle, and they need to work through, and
Mhm.
we need to, what muscle do we want to isolate in this learning experience? And that, by the way, that might be plural muscles. What skills are the most important that we really want to isolate? And are there muscles in this learning experience that we don't, and we can reduce that friction there so we can focus over here. So just, we talk a lot about with AI calculators as well, right? If we really want to focus on conceptual math and we already know how to compute, maybe in advanced math, this can help us offload so we can really focus here. Or note taking, we no longer need to remember every single detail because we have this offloading tool of note taking so that we can think conceptually about whatever the subject is, and we can offload some details over here. So I think that's where that learning scientist thing comes in, is really making very important decisions about what we want learners to focus on. And helping to really isolate the muscles that count for those learning experiences.
I love that description very, very much. I think a lot of teachers need to see what that looks like when it's put into practice in a classroom. Because I think a lot of them when I go out and do trainings, a lot of them talk about, 2001 Space Odyssey and HAL going crazy and, AI taking over their jobs. And that's not at all what you're talking about. And I think sometimes they just need to see somebody actually in a classroom integrating AI and how it's making life better and enhancing studies for students.
I had the privilege this morning. I started off my day with some sixth graders. Nice. And that's always the best way to start a day, is when you're with students. And these particular students had done a project called The Future of School. And they had done all this work where they talked about what's the purpose of school, what do they as sixth graders want to get out of school. Their teacher is doing some amazing things with AI literacy. And then they built models, CAD models, and then physical models of their future of school. So we went in and talked to them about their prototypes, but also like, what are the characteristics of school that we see manifest in your prototypes here? Anyways, we got on the subject of AI, and I was asking them, because I'm on this cognitive offloading thing, and I kind of described the same conversation. And I said, a lot of people want to know if AI can support creativity or if it diminishes creativity. And I threw that out to the sixth graders. And then I said, and I go, let me ask you a very pointed question. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. So one of the sixth graders said, when I'm being creative, I really want to own my ideas. I don't want help. Like, I want to be inside of my brain, and I want to own the entirety of my idea. So for me, when I'm in a creative space, I don't want to use AI. And then another sixth grade student said, actually, I have used AI in the creative space because when I have envisioned an idea, and just for some context, they also have a class just on they have a makerspace class. She
Nice.
says, when I'm envisioning an idea and I can see it in my brain, but I don't know how to get from my brain to here. And so she said, I have used AI to build a bridge because I have a vision, but I don't know how to realize it. So I don't know. So I'll use it to help me understand the mechanics for me to get from here to there, to help me figure out what materials I might need, what gaps I might not be thinking of in my vision. So she said, AI doesn't help me come up with the idea. It helps me realize it. And so I thought that's really the power of learner agency too, right? Because we have one student that's like, I want to own it top to bottom. I want it all to be mine. We have another student that's like, I like to work in tandem because it helps build bridges for me to be able to realize something that I want to be able to do. But those two students and the other students I was talking to today, they have AI literacy. And so they understand what AI does, they have practice using it. So now they can actually make really good personal decisions about when it helps them and when it doesn't, when they want to own something top to bottom, when they need a little support building that bridge. The teacher didn't tell them, but she's built the agency through AI literacy for them now to be able to make their own decisions, which I thought was really beautiful.
I really like that. So I love the talk about, because AI literacy is so vital to their futures. I mean, to ours too, but especially to our students, to understand the power that it wields and that it can wield in their hands. And I love that story. When I started my day with a fifth grade class, so I agree with you. That's a great way to start the day. And we talked about AI also. And it was like a couple of them I saw kind of do little side glances, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, you use it to write your essays. I can tell. But how can a teacher encourage a student to use AI in ways that enhance but not replace their originality and critical thinking? You know, because you've got those
Well,
students who are like, oh, I'm just going to be lazy and use AI. But the ones you were describing, that, that's the model.
that it totally is the model. And the hard part, Tammy, is that like we as adults, we don't even know these things, right? A lot of us are still trying to figure it out. I'll tell you what, um, when I wrote the 2024 AI guidance, I tried to use AI to help me,
Mm,
and AI didn't help me. And so a funny story is that I have, the enterprise version of Copilot, right? This is 2024. And
yep.
I'm working with it, and I'm thought partnering with it, and I keep asking it questions back and forth. I am not kidding you, Tammy. Copilot told me at one night that I have exhausted my question asking, and it is now going to stop answering my question.
What?
Like
Really?
I had been at it for several hours, and it was literally like
You
almost
broke Copilot?
almost rude. It was like, you have asked a lot of questions, and let's pick this up tomorrow.
Wow.
And actually, I didn't find it at all helpful. It just wasn't helpful. I put it
Mm-hmm.
away. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that over the last 2 years of incessantly using it as a thought partner, I have found my own way in how it works with me and for me, and my own style of working with it. And so this is AI literacy that we build through experience, not through a class. Although we need classes, and we need to be able to, we need professional development, and we need guided experiences, and we need to know some technical pieces of the back end of the way it works. But in addition to that, we need to practice. We learn through doing. And so I had somewhere I was going with that thought. Oh, so I was going to say that it's really hard, I think, and I feel for teachers who are asked to teach AI literacy or to help their students become AI literate when they themselves haven't had the training that they need, or
Mm-hmm.
they don't feel like they're AI literate, and it becomes very difficult. So I personally love the model of learning with and from your students.
Yes.
Um, but we also have to obviously acknowledge safety issues with AI, data safety practices, like all of those things. And depending on the age of students, like if students can even use AI, in which case modeling works great, but modeling works great when a teacher feels comfortable modeling something, right? And so this all kind of goes together. Um, so this
It's that
teacher,
teacher mindset, isn't it, of sage on the stage, and there are a lot of teachers that think they need to know all the answers, and you're absolutely right. You need to let students help teach, and you need to let teachers not be afraid to make a mistake in front of the class and go, "Oh, well, that didn't work."
100%. And I think when we have that mindset, like we can learn with and from our students, it changes the game and it takes the pressure off. But that's really hard. That's really hard. Easy, easier said than done. So I have a lot of empathy for teachers in this very complex and moving rapidly time. There's a
It
lot to
does
learn.
move. It does move very, very rapidly. But the one thing that I've found, because I've taught a lot of AI classes to educators for NCCE, and what always blows me away is they get fascinated by you have to craft the question correctly to get the answer you're looking for. And it
What
makes them think about how they're wording it and how they're asking it. And I had a math teacher once who was just dead set against AI. And then he's like, oh, this is ridiculous. I asked it to give me the a question about an isosceles triangle, and it gave me one about um, equilateral triangle. And I said, well, an equilateral triangle is an isosceles. You weren't specific enough. And he went, and just he had a whole lesson plan about how kids would use AI to come up with it. Was fascinating. So
that is fascinating.
yeah, so I think that's a great place to start, because teachers get excited when it's like, how do I know what I want to know, how do I craft the question, which is a terrific skill for students, right?
It really is. And I actually, and I can't remember who it was. I wish I could cite this person, but I saw it on LinkedIn or something today, and someone referred to it as AI literacy is like, this is just what we do in language arts. And we've always done this in language arts.
Oh.
We have always focused on what is it that we want to know, and how do we use our words to ask the right questions to the right audience. Like, if I know I'm in a platform, how does that change the words I'm using versus if I'm asking a person? Like, language arts has always been about crafting questions and
Mhm.
communication in order for a two-way information exchange to happen. And I just thought that was an aha for me today, at
Love
which
it.
you just perfectly described.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I
And
love
then I
and
think too, oh, go ahead.
no, you.
Well, I was just going to like switch topics really quick, because I think that in addition to the teaching and learning part is the mental health aspect and the mental well-being aspect. So
Yes.
this teacher that I observed today, she teaches students all up and down K-6.
Okay.
And I know that she started with her littlest students teaching AI literacy, just in the form of, what is technology, what is not, what is AI. It's not a human, which is so important for our students to understand. And she had them do this lesson where she asked, I might get the it's like the game of telephone, I'll probably get this 90% right. She said, what is the best lunch the cafeteria serves? She had all the students in her class answer the question, and they did like a click right. And then she asked AI. By the way, I think there was a bunch of questions, but I'm just
Sure.
focusing on one. So then she would pull these responses and she would ask the students, is this a human answer or is this an AI answer?
Oh, I love that. That's
So
great.
the AI so hang on. So let me try this. So one of the answers was, the best cafeteria lunch is by far pizza. So she asked her students, human or AI? So what do you
AI.
think? It was AI. You're right. And so here's the lesson that she taught them, because the students go, yeah, the students would never say pizza because we get pizza so often that it's not special. So none of us in this class would name pizza because it's too common. So then she tied it to, guess what AI does? It aggregates the data that trained it. So
Yep.
it's always going to have an answer that is dominant, not specific. So when you
Yes.
hear an answer that feels like it's a dominant perspective, that's a clue that it might have come from AI. And that's the difference between an AI output versus a human output. So now she's teaching fourth graders how to think really critically about output, and at the same time, teaching them about, this is a machine, this is not a
Mhm.
human. It might interact as if it's a human, it might sometimes feel like it, but it's not. And
Oh,
that
I
we know
love
that's so important.
Yeah, no, I love that, being able to tell, has it been faked? Is it a deep fake, or is it, I mean, that is something we practiced in my class too. I mean, it's so important to get those skills to students. I mean, just look at social media nowadays. We get to a point where you look at an image and you're like, is that real? I don't know. You
And it's
know?
only going to get harder to tell. It's only,
Yes.
the technology is only getting better.
And but here's the thing, people are getting smarter. I saw a website that was selling a finger that you could attach to your hand. So when you showed the picture, you could deny something because it would look AI generated because it had a sixth
Oh,
finger.
that's funny. Yeah. Yeah.
People are always clever. The
Oh my
students
God.
came up with that. Oh, Leanne, this has been so wonderful. Tell us where we can find resources about all the wonderful work that you're doing in Arizona.
Yeah, so the vanity URL where you can find our guidance is azk12.ai. Right
There it is.
now, it's our 2025 version. Mid-June, it'll be the 2026 version. And then www, and you have to put the www in, .azaialliance.org is where we have further support, resources, and so forth, for anyone, for anyone. And I want to give a plug to the teacher because she's that amazing and she shares so generously. So if you're
Please.
on LinkedIn, her name is Tara, Tara Menghini, Meghini, and she also has an Instagram, and I think it's at Teacher Tara. And
Nice.
she shares so generously the things that she does, and she's really brilliant. So I just want to throw a shout out
Oh,
to her.
we love all kinds of resources. And if someone wanted to reach out to you, are you on the Twitterverse or somewhere?
I'm on the LinkedIn mostly, and it's
Okay.
just my name, and I love to connect with people.
Perfect. So on LinkedIn. Leanne, thank you. What just amazing things going on there in Arizona. I'm super excited. Has the Department of Education adopted your yes, they have.
Actually, the Department of Ed, they're one of my they're on the authoring team.
Oh, they're right. Right.
They're on the author, yeah, they're on the authoring team. So they don't publish it, but they point to it. They're on the
Gotcha.
authoring team. Yeah, yeah.
Oh, I just love that triangulation of everyone working together for the betterment of the students. I mean,
It's
that's what it's about.
so amazing. The collaboration in Arizona is around AI is really off the hook. If I think that's very that dates me to say off the hook, but
But it takes the human touch, doesn't it? It takes those connections and relationships to make it work. Thank you so much for being here, for giving so generously of your time. We appreciate it very much. And everyone, remember, this is our last episode for this school year. We'll be back in August, but everything is available on ncce.link/live, or you can go to our YouTube channel. All of our past episodes from the past, oh gosh, years are all up there. Of course, technology changes so fast. Some of the older ones may not quite be as up to date, but we had some great guests this year, including Leanne Lindsay. So thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you being here. And everyone, have a terrific summer, and we'll see you in August. Thanks, Leanne.
appreciate the invite. Thank you so much.